So let's look right here at game number 2 after Oxygen picked it up. This is on Tomb of the Spider Queen. This is the draft situation right here. Let me take a look at what I have for notes. We see Sergeant Hammer banned away from Oxygen. This is some of the value in having a player that is just really good at a sort of smaller niche. People always get mad at me when I say niche character.
Yes, it is niche. It's not niche. It's niche.
So then that frees up your drafting a little bit right there, being able to just eat away the Sergeant Hammer ban. There's not as much that they can do. Tracer
Yes,
banned
like
away.
if Mockery was in CCL, then Tracer would always be banned against him, and he's eating a free ban. So it's the exact same. Nick is like one-tricking Hammer on EU ladder right now.
And every team that I've been on, that's been part of the draft game plan, is, hey, they are going to ban Tracer. Okay, they are just going to do that. So we know they only have one real ban in the opening phases, and that really constricts what they can limit as far as our early picks go. So yes, it sucks to have your one trick banned out or have your main banned out, but when it's reliable like this, it also reliably influences your game plan as well. And then one thing that I also thought was really interesting about this draft was we see right here, remember that the order of the draft is top down. So the heroes that you see at the top were picked early in the draft, the heroes you see at the bottom were picked late. I noticed Chili Mountain banned the Hammer despite first picking Blaze. And I thought that was really interesting.
That's just how afraid of Nick they were.
Yeah, because
like they think even if we counter you, you're going to find a way to outplay the matchup and win the game.
Yeah, and so just to talk a bit about the Blaze Hammer matchup for you, chat, there are two elements that I think are pretty big in it. One of them is a talent called Nanomachine Coding at level 7 for Blaze, and this is huge. Okay, this talent is nutty. So here it is right here, Nanomachine Coding. Read this. Enemies standing in oil spills and ignited oil spills have their attack speed reduced by 50% for 3 seconds. And chat, what I need you to understand, okay, is that those 3 seconds start ticking down when you get off the oil. If an oil is thrown on you and you just stand on that oil the entire time it lasts, let's see, oil lasts 5 seconds. So hypothetically, one oil, if you just sit in it like an idiot and just keep hitting, can slow down your attack speed for 8 seconds. Right? Thank you, by the way, for the sub, Ghost Dunk. Appreciate the 33-month streak.
Hammer is a hero who can't move out of the oil if she wants to keep pushing. She has to stay stationary.
Exactly. Hammer, even when you get Hover Siege at the same tier as Blaze gets Nanomachine Coding, you're still not moving that fast. You're moving at roughly half movement speed, so your ability to get out of the Nanomachine Coding is not great. So Hammer is often very, very susceptible to getting her main source of damage countered by Nanomachine Coding. And the thing is, Nanomachine Coding is only a flat attack speed reduction, so you might be like, oh, this cuts the enemy carry's attack damage in half because it's minus 15 or 50%. But the thing is you have to remember that this interacts additively with attack speed increases. So if that assassin has something that increases their attack speed by, say, 30%, then you're only taking 20% out of their attack speed. So
that's a very good point by Alba. You can extend the amount of time that the oil is on the ground by igniting it right before.
Oh, yeah, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, hypothetically, one oil, if you stood in it forever and the blaze extended the time it was on the ground by lighting it, it could be like 10 straight seconds of auto attack slow. So, of course, this is something Hammer players have to think about, because Hammer is a hero that doesn't have attack speed increases outside of a level 20 talent. So Nanomachine Coding, because it works additively and not multiplicatively, it is specifically best into immobile ranged assassins that depend on auto-attacking and don't have attack speed increases. And Hammer checks all of those boxes. Hammer checks literally all of those boxes. So this talent matches up extremely well into her, and Nanomachine Coding is often just the pick anyway. Part of that is because Suppressive Fire, its strongest competition, is bugged to not reduce healing. This is a very important bug with Blaze. Suppressive Fire, if you could reduce healing, it would have a lot of really interesting matchups that you could shut down, but it only reduces spell damage, so a lot of times Nanomachine Coding ends up being better. And it specifically matches up so well into Hammer, and not only that, but Blaze also really loves to hit Crossfire. the double flame stream where you damage a target with both hits of your flame stream at the same time. Well, who's best to hit that on? Immobile large targets like Sergeant Hammer. And so this gives you a way to do big damage at range to Sergeant Hammer. She is one of the best types of heroes to use it on. And so I thought that this just was so indicative of such a massive amount of respect for the Hammer from Oxygen. If the fact that you are already first picking Blaze, who has such a great matchup, such great interaction into Hammer, you're first picking him and you're still banning the Hammer? Like, Nick is just cracked at Hammer, and he's got Hasuabs on his team, who is also cracked at Hammer. And keep in mind, guys, this is, I think, actually something that really helps your effectiveness on a specific character when you have multiple people who can play it. Because then your players can practice more efficiently with the character, and also they can draft it more often. Because, of course, drafting comes down to hero pools a lot of times, right? Like, it comes down to what your teammates can play. And if you only have one Hammer player, well, then you can only play Hammer in situations where the draft fits the other player's hero pool. But if both of them can play Hammer, like Hasu Nick, then you're just able to threaten it in so many more situations right there. So that to me, just the massive amount of respect right there. And we saw Oxygen when I cast Master's Clash a week ago, not this most previous one. Oxygen just abused the team they were up against with Hammer Split Push. So it does not surprise me to see it banned out, and it does get banned out, I believe, in the following game as well. It's a very good hero if you're good at it. All right, is there anything else you want to say about this draft before we actually get into the game, Cascon?
Yeah, so I actually want to note how Oxygen 1-2s Johanna and Lucio. So on Team of the Spider Queen, there are specific tools you're looking for to like control the objective and control waves. So you want wave clear and you want turn install. Having Lucio can watch all of the turn-ins for free just by being speedy, by being a nuisance. He can just watch them. Johanna handles all of your wave clear. Johanna can take top wave and mid wave constantly while Lucio is warding, and that leaves the rest of your draft so flexible to do whatever you want. And thinking about drafts in the sense of what tools you need to pick up rather than what heroes really helps, and it's something that Cavalier Guest, the like coach for Oxygen, I know thinks about a lot.
Yeah, drafting to me has always been a sort of, we're looking to check a couple boxes, you know? I think to myself, oh, I'm on Cursed Hollow, I want to check off the boxes of global pressure, of boss control, some siege, you know, those are the kinds of things I want to pick up. Clear. Yeah, some camp clear is always huge. A lot of times you see serrated arrows, Hanzo picked up on Cursed Hollow, for example. And it doesn't really matter which specific heroes are checking those boxes, honestly. Johanna can be part of your wave clear.
Proved that in 2018 when he started running non-traditional main tanks, because other heroes can fill the role of what a tank does.
Yeah, like who cares where the different parts of your team are coming from, right? Like all that matters at the end of the day is that the total team composition fulfills the checkboxes that you need in drafting, and Justin is a player that really understands that, and so that's why you always see him pick not real tanks as tanks, because the team as a whole fills those boxes and checks those boxes. It's an interesting approach to drafting that I think demonstrates a lot more understanding than people just being like, oh, these heroes. But that tends to be good too. And then let's get into the actual game here. Now that we've talked about the draft, this is going to be Tomb of the Spider Queen between Oxygen and CM. There it is right there.
Hopefully this won't be a bit quicker.
Hopefully, yeah, we're gonna try to go faster because we're taking a lot of time here. We have 7 games in total, and we don't want this to take 7 hours, so we're gonna go through this one much quicker. One thing that we're gonna look out at the start right here is I remember Banana H is gonna lurk in this bush and specifically try to pick up a kill. Okay, notice just whenever the gates open, teams are playing for vision control. HotS, I'm going to say it over and over and over again. HotS is a game of vision control. Bad Benny runs to bush immediately, tries to get vision. Masquerade queues into the bush immediately, tries to get vision. And notice how Banana H has been sitting off map this whole time. Okay, Banana H is not stepping up. He's not letting the enemy team see him, and he's lurking up here. And this is about to get a really big benefit when they get first blood. Because again, Oxygen doesn't know where Banana is. And then Nick just steps up and starts clearing, and then it's an easy first blood.
This is insane.
Vision control is HotS. HotS is vision control. They are one and the same.
I'm also like personally very proud of Banana for that, because season 1, he wasn't doing that stuff. Me and Cav had to like do vision control sessions, helping Banana and everyone else in Oxygen like understand vision to a higher level. And now I think he's at that level. He understands it really well.
And then now watch right here as well. Oh, you see Masquerade getting comboed under fort, but that's pretty normal. He's just gonna get able to hop right on out of there. I just look in the chat. I just love this chat. Vision is the most important stat in any video game. The second most important is movement speed, followed up, of course, by the third, insulting the mother of your enemy. So chat.
That's much more important when you have all chat as well, though. Without all chat, insulting the mother of the enemy doesn't do much.
I believe minions have 6 vision range, if I remember correctly. They see in 6 units around them. So notice right here, so. We're watching red side vision, we're watching Chili Mountain, and you don't see anything happening right here, right? But you know what's actually happening? Kerrigan and Lucio are on siege camp. They're going to it right now. But CM doesn't see that at all, and part of the reason is Bad Benny stepping up and clearing this minion wave. So clearing the minion wave not only gets rid of the wards, but it also stops Dayquaza from using his body to see Lucio and Kerrigan, because heroes have much longer vision radius than minions do right there. So Bad Benny zoned for his team by clearing this wave, allowing for his teammates to step onto the giant camp without being seen. Dayquaza, of course, has some suspicions that that's what's happening, and does confirm this for himself, and he gets vision of the enemy team to 100% confirm. HotS, literally, the whole game is just about trying to get out of vision and trying to see the enemy team.
It's a game of information. High-level HotS is a game of information. Whoever has more information and uses that information better wins the game most of the time.
And so I want to point out right here why it's so much better to shake this out as Oxygen did. So Oxygen went ahead and took Siege right away, while CM took their Bruisers right away. And so now Oxygen is capping their Bruisers much later. They're going to take a lot of structure damage here, but note what's going to happen. Their Bruisers are not going to die. Their Bruisers are going to clash with their Bruisers here in the middle of lane. Oxygen's going to be the one that ultimately gets to push with them as they now rotate on mid. It's a big 5-on-5, but this is not where CM wants to fight. CM doesn't want to fight at enemy gate when they're about to have Bruiser spell armor right there. You can see Masquerade going in, but at this point, because Oxygen took their Bruiser camp so much later than CM, their Bruiser camp is still alive. This is something that I talk about a lot. When you have 2 camps in the same lane, 1 from each team, generally the team that caps their camp later is going to take some siege damage from when the camp pushes in, but then they are ultimately going to end up being the team that has the camp advantage. And that's exactly what happened right here. CM getting a bit of siege damage in mid, but Oxygen ultimately has overall Bruiser advantage, and CM just can't fight. You just cannot fight into spell armor. It's just 20 spell armor and everybody makes it so much harder. What's up, Cascon?
I know this game is important and you're making a very important point, but you haven't had the hat redeemed for this game, so you can take it off.
Oh, Pog, let's go. Alrighty. I look forward to putting it back on in 10 seconds right there. Oxygen, of course, with that Bruiser advantage that I just spent so long talking about, didn't do a ton with it. Arcontemable, thank you for the redemption of the Women Want Me Fish Fear Me hat. Let's go ahead and put that one back on. That was probably about 5 seconds total.
I think a key thing to note is that the Oxygen doesn't have any tools yet to really keep Chili Mountain in place, because Johanna doesn't have Bless Shield yet, so they can't just walk up. If Chili Mountain want to walk away, they just Tyrell move speed and they're out, and Oxygen doesn't have any tools to keep them there.
It's a very common trend with Johanna teams, is that you're a little bit lacking in terms of 1 through 9 with Johanna's pressure, but her ults are big for team fights. And a lot of times, you see Johanna teams that weirdly, in the early game, they just kind of stall, right? Johanna uses her excellent wave clear, her survivability to just stall the game, and scale to the point of actually getting kill pressure. It seems pretty common. And guys, I just want to say specifically, keep your eyes on Yasu as he plays Lucio in this game. Yasu is known for his Lucio. I believe when we made our spreadsheet of the best players in the game, I think he was a consensus #1 Lucio right now player. If I remember correctly.
All 3 of us, me, Cav, and Gunnar, put Yasu as the best Lucio in the world right now.
He's just insanely good at it, and you'll continually see Yasuo. Not only is he good at playing the Lucio and stepping up aggro and looking for kills and looking for disruptions, but he's also really good against Lucio players, and that's going to come up big in one of the games after this one, when Yasuo actually goes against a Lucio as Anduin. You're going to see some really good reads in that game as well. Let me see right here. My next note is at 5:45. It's just talking about Yasuo just playing very, very aggressive. Yasuo just dips in, and there's not a lot that they can do about it on the side of CM. You can see they've been wanting to turn in for a long time, but with flashlight spam and with Johanna or with Lucio wall ride spam, like there's nothing you can do.
And you're constantly behind on waves because Oxygen just has better wave clear, so the minions are going to help them get vision of the turn-ins.
See some rotational play right there. Ooh, you're gonna see a lot of dives towards this area right here in particular throughout the game. And I gotta say, also there's one thing that comes in a lot in this series as well, and it's that CM is going to overextend versus Oxygen, and whenever they overextend, they try to get out, but they're against a team that has way too much mobility. Think about it. Like you're gonna see that trend that just happened over and over, or at least one more time throughout this series, where CM tries to step up, and then all of a sudden it's, oh no, we're slowed by Jaina, where they all have speed boost by Lucio, they can run after us with Urel, and they're just gonna keep getting caught overextended, not respecting the mobility. That movement speed, the second most important stat, as coined by a member in the chat right there. And Dino just gets popped out, of course, just ahead of insulting the enemy players' mothers.
Okay, the second you get level 10 on Johanna, you want to look for a Blessed Shield, and ideally you want to look for one every 60 seconds. Every time it's up, you want to look for an instant blow-up kill. It's that strong of an ultimate, you just want to use it for a kill and then get something with the kill.
I feel like this was illegal from Dino, so he steps up without his Tyrael, because notice his Tyrael's staggered behind him, and Bad Benny is just completely out of vision. Watch this. Bad Benny's lurking in that bush, or at least will be soon as he approaches, and we're going to watch this from Dino's perspective. You have no vision of 4 out of 5 members of the enemy team. Your tank isn't here yet, and he kind of just walks out all the way up to his melee minions.
A key thing there as well is Banana actually checked the bottom bush. So what Dino could have done is he could have played further to the bot side because they had vision of that bush. Instead, he plays to the top side where Bad Bunny actually is and gets blast shielded.
And I think, honestly, just stepping up at all for any reason isn't super good in this situation anyway. You don't gain much benefit from it at all. And note how quick the response is from Oxygen. They're lurking just outside the vision radius, so as soon as somebody oversteps, they can just go for it. And then the second Dino just starts inting his positioning, you have Kerrigan and Johanna just right here. It's exactly what we talked about with Bad Benny lurking over the wall with Muradin. He's waiting for the enemy team to overstay and show their hand, and then just instantly ready to hop in here. And of course, Vala just gets deleted. Let's see, where's my next note?
And that was Chile Mountain's turn in as well. So, like, if you don't respect vision, then that's going to happen, even if you have the turn. Even if it's your objective, you're at risk of dying at any point if West Shield is up.
And I want to point out, Yasuo also has been taking off the wall at level 4 lately, which allows you to really play for disruption in the enemy backline right there. Off the wall rather than subwoofer, you're going for more Qs rather than Qs that push farther. So that means Yasuo... You're going to notice Yasuo's just camping out in the enemy backline of Chile Mountain right here, and I think this actually gives Stukov problems with trying to cast Lurking Arm on his team. Because if Stukov...
specifically into Stukov, it's really good.
Yeah, just having your Q knockback basically always up and just camping out of the enemy backline means that Banana never really is able to just sit there and channel Lurking Arm. He always has to worry about it getting interrupted. So I really like this tech that we see from Yasuo.
It's also really good into Blaze because you have it up more often to interrupt his jet propulsion.
Absolutely.
Because you can just boop him as he's charging. And on Tomb of the Spider Queen, it gives you more turn installs as well without having to use your autos.
Give me just a second here. I realized I was capturing my screen and not my HotS directly. There we go. We can now see this.
So we actually missed the kill like 20 seconds ago, but basically all it was Blessed Shield was up, Bad Bunny pressed the Black Shield, the entire team followed up, and the target died. It's the exact same thing we saw on the Vala earlier.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to say Gonna Gutter. I think tech was the wrong word. I'm more just trying to explain what the talent's doing and the specific level of threat that it offers into the enemy team. But I appreciate the deeper context on off the wall being standard. Alrighty, let me see when my next note is for this series. Game time is 8:21. The next thing that I have a note for in this specific one is at 11:40. Both teams, of course, taking their bruisers. Remember, of course, camps always, on every map except Infernal Shrines, I want to say camps despawn during objective. And so while that objective is going, you just want to make sure, actually, as it starts, you want to make sure that you tag any camps that you can to try and get those extra boosts.
Something both teams did is they timed the camp with the minion wave. So that they're going to walk up together, and the wave is kind of more protected, if you will.
Yeah.
I think Chili Mountain should have delayed the cap of their camp, though, until Oxygens would have hit the wall. So because you're fighting under that spell armor.
Yeah, if they could just keep that spell armor mage minion just behind the gate right here protected, that goes a long way towards enabling them to step up and defend without feeling threatened and having the advantage on Oxygen. But instead, the bruiser camps clashed in mid lane, and then the siege was able to happen, and the entire gate just goes down with CM not able to play super committally into it. Just gonna speed up right here since my next note is at 11:40 and we don't want to be here all day. Oxygen going for the cap.
I believe it's like 6 seconds past for Bruiser Camp. I could be. I tested it in 2018, but I haven't tested it in ages.
A lot of times I just kind of eyeball when to take the camps. I don't really specifically do it down to a timing right there.
Can't believe it. Being 1 or 2 seconds of inoptimal, I can't believe it.
Yeah, it's unforgivable, I'm sorry.
No, it's unforgivable.
Alrighty. See right here, moving forward, trying to get to the next play. Ooh. And Kerrigan, I gotta say, I feel like every time I watch Kerrigan games, it feels almost Diablo-esque, where people hang out in front of their fort thinking they're safe, and then they just get stun killed. And so, like, I always see in my SL games, you see players standing where Banana H is when they're defending a fort, and they just get wall-banged by Diablo into their own fort. It feels like the same thing happens with Kerrigan every time I watch Europe. Someone stands in front of their fort thinking they're safe, and she just pulls.
Kerrigan is also notoriously hard on ping, and Nick is playing her on 130 ping this game. And playing her really well, for that matter.
Yeah, the ping comes in so much, because I remember Nick, doesn't he have a game on, like, Maiev, or was that in our second series?
No, in our second series, Poik has a game on Maiev.
Yeah, and it's like, dude, you're playing, like, 130 ping Maiev, dude. How does that even work? But it's interesting regardless. Right here, so Oxygen has fort advantage top, by the way, chat. I just want to point this out. Getting that fort down earlier from those first 2 web weavers from Oxygen allowed the minion wave to clash this deep. So now CM has no vision of any time Oxygen wants to go in on this boss pit, and Oxygen knows that CM isn't approaching. If they try to come through lane, Oxygen sees it coming every time, so the only approach they could have is through this middle area, and of course they'd have to worry about the minion wave timing, and they're just not even 16, so they're not able to contest it super hard. So CM, knowing, hey, Oxygen is probably on boss, they have massive vision advantage, they have XP advantage, they're probably taking boss, we have to try and get some pressure elsewhere on the map while they're doing that. We have to try and do something. So they go over here towards Copen, and try to play for the interrupts on him.
So what Mountain try to do is they try to pay their gems and stop Copen paying his. But realistically, into a Urel, you're not going to be able to just pay bot side. Urel is a hero that can jump in and be very disruptive, even in a 1v4, and even live in those situations.
Yeah, these are 2 heroes, Johanna and Urel, that are just so excellent for being able to step up and pressure these turn-ins, because Oxygen knows, hey, we get a free boss right here, we have big advantage, they're going to let us have the free boss, and they're not just going to sit on their hands, so we're going to control the turn-ins at the same time, preventing the enemy team from getting it in. Copen's just here preventing CM from getting any value during boss, taking away all of their options. Bad Benny was doing the same with the top turn-in as well. They didn't just 5-man boss. That's very, very important. Alrighty.
Now we can see Oxygen actually stepping up with the boss, because they still have 16 advantage as well. And then you're going to see, right as that 16 advantage goes away, Oxygen leaves. They don't want to give an even fight to Chiller Mountain or a disadvantage fight. They want to only take fights where they are ahead or where they're going to get something from it.
Yeah, with right there, it's too easy to just find yourselves in a position. It's just not an advantage at all. If you're on equal talent tiers and you don't have a boss and you're trying to hit the keep, that is easily a disadvantage. So Oxygen backs off, and yet again, both teams take their bruisers so that they actually push during objective rather than just letting them despawn. I'm a little surprised to see bot wave not get prepped right here by maybe the Urel clearing it out. I think the only reason... Yeah, I just, well, if you clear it before the web weaver spawns, then the web weaver spawns further in lane. And that's really important because web weavers lose HP as they walk. So if your web weavers spawn really far back, then they're just not going to be tanky enough by the time they make it to the enemy structures to actually do any push value. So I think Urel should have cleared that wave as the web weavers are spawning bottom. And the only reason you don't is if you think CM is going to come fight you mid. So if they reasonably expected that, then maybe it's a good play for Urel to be mid. Otherwise, I think wave gets prepped every time. Ooh.
Bless shield and kill.
Yep. And so that's a classic CC chain on the Tyrael right there. What's up, Cascon?
So I didn't discuss this in the draft, but this is very important when playing into a Bless Shield Johanna, is that you have a cleanse. Because otherwise, whoever Johanna Bless Shields is going to die. It's a 1 second stun, and this follow-up CC from the side of Oxygen with Kerrigan combos, and Jaina does a lot of burst, but I think one of the highest in the game, if not the highest.
Yeah, Jaina is just lethal.
Because if Banana there could cleanse Masquerade, he could get sank off rather than it being 10 seconded, or he could sword out, and he would have lived, and it would have been fine.
And that was without Kerrigan combo. Nick fail comboed right before this, and the burst is still so obscene that your main tank is just absolutely just going to be at risk of that. And Sanctification by Tyrael, you can't get it off unless you get a cleanse. You have to get a cleanse if you're the person being aggressed on, right? Because you can sank for other people, but if they're going in on you...
for others, but you can't save yourself. So you need your teammates to enable you to press that sank button or to drop a bunker or something. But even bunker, you need a cleanse to get into nowadays.
Bunker, you got to be right next to it, you got to be able to channel, and that's really good recognition by Oxygen. The fact that they're into a support that doesn't have cleanse, that is so huge when you know the enemy team has no way to give their teammates unstoppable. There are a lot of ways to punish that, usually just CC chains, and also another big one that's going to come up later today is Chromie Temporal Loop as well.
Oh yeah.
We saw right there Copen just able to hammer Dayquaza out of jet propulsion, always kind of feels bad as Blaze. Whenever you have stuff that just really limits the consistency of your abilities. And then also we talked about before the ability to blow up main tanks. We just saw it with Tyrael right there, with Oxygen able to just completely CC chain him down. We saw it with Stitches when Masquerade was playing it last game. He was just getting abused by the CC chains the whole time. And you're going to see it again right here on Dayquaza. Watch, Dayquaza's got 46 gems, level 20 advantage for Oxygen, and they know his support has no way to save him. So if they can pick him off right there, then CM is forced to step up to try to pick up the gems. If they pick up the gems, then they're in danger. If they don't pick up the gems, then they just lose them. So it's kind of a win-win. If you can get pressure onto Dayquaza, it happens any second right here.
Into Blaze, it's really difficult as well. Because if Blaze is holding down the bunker button, if there's even a frame where he's not CC'd, he will get into that bunker.
CC chain has to be perfect. And I want to point out right here, notice how Hasuabs, he has Northern Exposure at level 16. He doesn't have the Root. The Root talent tends to be the best Jaina talent in SL, just free CC. And minus armor is more valuable the more coordinated your team's damage is. If your team is all blowing up the same person at the same time, minus armor is huge. If you're just in SL Fiesta, it's not as much unless it has really high uptime. But notice how this chain starts out. This chain just starts out beautifully right here, where you're using your most guaranteed CC, Blessed Shield, that is your most high consistency CC, and you're using your armor reduce right at the start of the blow up combo. Very well done. And the fact that those two things are done together enables the perfect CC chain. The minus armor happening at the start really lowers Blaze's amount of health pool that he has available, and the CC just prevents any attempt at getting in bunker. So well done. And then look at these gems.
In like less than half a second. Like it was that quick. And that's when you're playing a blow up or kill the frontline comp. That's how quickly you want your kills to be.
And then let's look at the total gem count here. 133 on the side of Chili Mountain. And then watch how much it goes down when Dayquaza dies. They're able to recover a couple of the gems, I think. Right here. Yeah, Masquerade blinks in and he picks up a big chunk of gems. But they lost like 35 right there.
Once again, the reason why Chili Mountain have so many gems is because Oxygen isn't allowing Chili Mountain to pay. Oxygen has the wave clear advantage with Johanna and Jaina. So they have the waves pushed out, and they have Lucio and Yrel to stop the turn-ins, and Chiller Mountain just can't step up. They can't ever get a turn-in.
Yeah, Yrel is just able to be a constant nuisance, and you can't really catch her and kill her because she's just so tanky and mobile. Lucio is so mobile, so you're never going to get the turn-in off into him. Johanna's the same way. She's just poking your turn-ins forever. So they have three heroes that basically allow permanent control of these different turn-ins, and like you said, the wave clear advantage with Johanna, Kerrigan, and Jaina. They just have so much wave clear in their four-man, certainly more than a four-man of Vala, Tyrael, Sylvanas, Stukov. And Sylv, they have decent macro, but in comparison to heroes that straight up just delete waves like Oxygen, they're always going to be behind in terms of vision of these turn-ins and rotation speed. So Oxygen, I really like that they drafted wave clear according to the map, and they drafted heroes that just make it impossible to turn in. Really well done.
Yeah. And then if you actually look at the threat on the front line of each team, Tyrael was like just afraid of being one-shot by Bless. Johanna, Sylvanas Rala, don't touch Johanna whatsoever. She can step up and do whatever the hell she wants this game. She's allowed to be in there. She's allowed to be deep without being pressured at all. Whereas Tyrael has to be afraid.
And then there's a play that we want to talk about right here. I specifically remember this happening. And this is very awkward. I think it might be a bit of team miscommunication. So one thing that we're going to note here, okay, is that Jaina, a big part of her ability to kill people is this Blizzard cooldown right here. And you can just barely see it not blocked by my camera right here. It's got a 15-second cooldown. And so if you use Blizzard, then you need some kind of... You either need to just not go for kills for the next 15 seconds, or you need Ice Fury Wand to lower that cooldown and increase the uptime of your W being available, or you need Icy Veins, the level 13 talent that gives you very fast cooldown reduction, which Jaina does have. But notably right here, Hasuabs is going to W. It's only going to hit Webweaver, and not the minion wave, which I think is a mistake. I think that should be on minion wave.
Yeah, minions do 300% now damage to structures.
Yeah, they do triple damage to structures. Yeah.
So killing the minions is the most important thing when the enemy is sieging. More important than any objective.
And then right as soon as Hasuabs uses his Blizzard, his main tank goes in. But then his teammates, like, this is such an awkward fight because Jaina uses cooldowns, and then they fight, and then that doesn't really work out, and then they Blessed Shield. And it's just so disjointed at this time. You can see the stark difference where Oxygen is just deleting frontliners, and then all of a sudden it goes into that where their cooldown usage isn't perfectly synced up. They go on someone when their damage doesn't have their burst available, and then all of a sudden it's so much more awkward. They try to get the kill on Blaze. Blaze gets in the bunker. He's able to avoid it, but there's a huge play right here from Yasu, I believe, that enables this victory, if I remember the fight correctly. So notice how Yasu, he high-fives Johanna on this jet propulsion, blocking the stun. Here's Bad Benny with the stun right here. Bunker from the Blaze. They start killing Bunker to get him out of there, and they start walking away.
He's already spread from his teammate. He's on the other side of the wall, so he's not hit by anything his team is going to be hit by, not the Sylvanas arrow.
And then booping all of these people off of Yasu right there buys Yasu the time he needs to get a very quick little Seraphim into Ardent Defender. If Yasu doesn't boot them all away right there, there's a very decent chance that Yrel just dies. Yeah.
Yeah.
So between the cleanse on Bad Benny...
This by Nick. He knows he's dead no matter what. He knows if he runs left, he's going to die. So what does he do? He looks for the trade. And he gets it. And that trade wins Oxygen the team fight, which they can then use to just walk core and end the game.
And then whenever you're against a team with high mobility, be it a Lucio, be it a Yrel, be it a Tracer, you have to be very careful about any time you ever take a fight, because if you take a fight away from structures, that team can chase you all the way back to your structures. There are several games in HGC. I'm talking highest levels of Heroes of the Storm gameplay. I could go point you to Gen G winning games versus top European teams, and European teams winning in the same way, where what happens is they have a Tracer. They defend against a late game push, and then...
It always comes back to Tracer.
Yeah, it always comes back to Tracer. It's Lucio. He's very similar. So this happened a lot in HGC, where a team would try to push post level 20 into a team that has Tracer, and the push goes okay. They don't really lose anybody. But then when it's time to leave, when it's time to go back into base, they just get run down, their whole team gets farmed, and they lose. And you can see right here, like, I personally think this whole fight right here is just the Yasuo show. Okay? Yasuo blocks the stun onto his tank, and then he peels for his Yrel, allowing him to survive, and then he gives his team the move speed necessary to chase CM. You have to be so careful about fighting away from your structures anytime you're into this kind of mobility. I have seen just countless high-level Heroes of the Storm games specifically get ended off the backs of this kind of stuff, pushing into a team that has high mobility.
Oh, our analysis is just Ghost Dunk has just, like, dunked us with facts. The reason Blaze didn't die in the initial blow up is because Oxygen is focusing the tank.
Dang it. How dare they?
So Oxygen just outdraft both of these games. I would argue the second game, yes. I think in the first game, Chili Mountain have win conditions because they have the Greymane, they have the Sylvanas. They can kind of snowball the early game and open up the map and then look for Stitches hooks. But the second that Chili Mountain didn't win the early game, I don't think there's anything they can do in the rest of the game.
Yeah, this is our game one draft, by the way, between these two teams. A lot of early game push pressure on the side of CM. If they could have just snowballed off that in the early game, then I think that could have given Oxygen major problems. But we saw they were actually applying a lot of pressure early, and then I think it starts to crumble when we see Blaze get outplayed bot lane. Dayquaza tries to peel. We had that moment where Dino goes the wrong way on the fort. Dayquaza tries to peel him and dies in the 2-on-1 bottom. So CM loses all their early game momentum when they lose the 2-on-1 bottom, and then of course because they took a 2-on-1 bottom, they have a 3-on-4 topside. And they lose that 3-on-4 topside at the same time, and then at that point their only realistic path to getting ahead in the early game, getting that early push pressure, they just misplayed it and lost it completely. I don't think it comes down to pure draft though.